Hey, welcome back to the shop. I'm Jason, and nope, I did not trade in my Super Duty for a Titan. This is actually my mom's truck, and after living almost 2,000 miles apart for more than a decade, they live in the neighborhood next door, so guess who's their mechanic? That's right, me. So today we're going to be covering an oil service. We're going to change the cabin air filter, check the engine air filter, check the spark plugs. The interval is 100,000 miles on those spark plugs, or 105, but this truck is 6 years old. They do a ton of short trip driving, and I want to see what those look like. Rotate the tires, put air in the spare tire, and double check everything underneath to make sure there's nothing wonky going on that might get them in trouble. So come along with me, let's get this thing done. So before we get the truck up in the air, we're gonna pop the air box open, which has these little spring clips here, and it lifts up. Now, my dad already changed the air filter in here before we discussed me doing the oil change. So you can see this one's nice and clean. But it's always important that while you're in here, you double check all of these things. Line your tabs back up, which I'm not gonna do at this moment because we're gonna be pulling a spark plug later. But now the lid's open, let's get the engine cover or sound isolation cover off, pop the oil cap off, and pull the dipstick, get this thing up in the air. At home, you probably don't have access to a lift. But the good thing about this truck is it's a full frame. So as you're jacking it up, make sure you throw a jack stand in these four corners, and then you'll be safe underneath it. For now, let's take a look. Just look for anything odd or loose, or that doesn't look right. No leaks. This is a two-wheel drive, so I don't have to worry about transfer case or front propeller shafts. Does look like there's a little bit of oil trace coming from, I don't know, oil pan or something there. So we're gonna have to take a look at that. And just take your time under here. Check your tranny, check your output shaft, see if your cats are still there. If you're in an area where people are taking cats, you'll know it'll be loud. Is your muffler rusted through? Drive line in the back. How does everything look? Looks clean to me. Double check a little closer when I don't have a camera in my hand. To start, you're gonna have to pull this front splash panel off, which are 12mm bolts. Use your head or something suitable to hold it from falling on you. You will need a small extension to get to the far forward bolts, and there's even these openings in the bumper so that your extension will fit through there. Now we'll be able to get to the oil filter right up here. There's a total of 7 of these bolts. So to encourage less oil draining onto the front subframe and more oil draining into my bucket here, I've got this piece of cardboard to help directionally assist it. This filter shouldn't be super duper tight. It's rated at 18 Newton meters or 13 foot-pounds. So if you can't turn it off by hand, probably too tight. Even after putting a pair of channel locks on it, it did not want to come off. You can see a little diversion trap there. Working nicely to drain into our bucket. I'm using a 5-gallon bucket today just because I had previously used this for oil and it catches it really nicely. While you have your filter off, double check that there's an O-ring attached to the filter still so you don't double O-ring onto your filter mount, which will indefinitely give you a leak. You can see here we have some sort of other oil leak going on, potentially a front main seal. I'm not sure. I'm gonna clean everything up and then do a little research. Okay, our drain plug is a 14mm. That felt pretty good. See how much oil I get on me. Should have some safety glasses on. The oil actually looks pretty good for the mileage. A lot of short trip wear. Doesn't smell too much like fuel, good job. While you have your drain plug out, now is a good time to pop your washer off and install a new crush washer. Once you're comfortable with how much oil has drained out, pop your drain plug back in. Obviously, make sure you have your new seal washer on there, or crush washer. And let your light die in the background. Remember, this is 34 Newton meters or 25 foot-pounds. You heard that right. Yep, there it is. That's it. It's another one of those things that's not monstrously tight. While you're under the truck, don't forget to lube up your alignment points. You've got cams on the lower control arms, your tie rods. That way, when you go to get an alignment later, they can actually get everything moved and in spec. With the truck still up in the air, we're gonna pop the tires off to do our rotation. They use a 21 millimeter sized socket, and we're gonna do a rear cross or front cross, however you wanna say it. The front tires are gonna go diagonally to the rear, and the rears are gonna come straight forward. Now is a great opportunity while you have the wheel off to take a look at your rotor, see if there's any abnormal scoring, check to see if you have a gigantic lip there, and peek down and in to see what your brake pad thickness is looking like. And while you're at it, take a look at your brake lines, take a look at your shock and your spring, make sure everything looks okay, nothing is loose, moved, or otherwise damaged. Four of my favorite words are while you're in there. You can see I clean the barrels just a little bit on these tires before I throw them back up there. This is a good practice for two reasons. One, makes it easier to clean, and two, when you get your tires and wheels balanced later, hopefully it'll be easier to clean off for the tire tech, and he'll put more effort into a good balance. Moving right along, the truck takes 6.9 quarts of oil. We're gonna start off with this big old 1 gallon jug. And I'd suggest using a funnel. I'm sure you're an amazing pour, but this is really easy to clean. And a bunch of oil all over the top of the motor, not so easy to clean. Now while we're working in here, now is a great time to top off your washer fluid, replace your washer blades or clean them. Clean your battery terminals, check your coolant level, your power steering level, basically all your fluids and filters. For the battery, just gonna put a little contact cleaner in this terminal. No real corrosion, which is good. It's a nice looking battery. Got the drain line over here, or the vent line. You can see coolant level is good. We're at our cold line for power steering. And we don't have any more fluids on this side. Brake fluid on the other side. I think we talked about changing it every 3 years. And our air filter. Now let's move on to popping a spark plug out and see if it's in decent shape. We're gonna wanna pull the mass airflow sensor off. If you look right on the bottom, there's a tab that you push up. Push that tab up. Then pull, there's the little tooth. Then we're gonna pull this side of the air box off to get good access to a spark plug right there. The hose clamp on our boot is an 8 millimeter. Our mass air cable is attached to the air filter housing. So you're gonna wanna pop that out the back side here. There we go. To get the spark plug out, we're gonna have to pull this coil. The bolt holding the coil is a 10 millimeter. Try to capture that with your fingers, and then it should come straight up like that. There's a little tab right here on the coil connector. Push that tab down, pull back. I'm gonna check the bottom of the coil for oil or corrosion. Check for any contacts breaking apart or any striking or arcing through there. Then we'll get our spark plug socket in to pop out. To get the airbox off, there's one screw on the inside. Let's see, when you're looking at it from the fender, it'll look like this. One screw here on the left, another tab right there that holds your mass airflow sensor harness, and another screw here on the right. These are all 10mm bolts, not screws. You can see where they fit down into the cubby right there. Now you can better see. Here's my extension. See. That doesn't look too bad. It's not fouled. It doesn't look like it's overheating at all. I think these guys are good to stay in here for a bit longer. You can see the tip itself is in really good shape. We have good uniform color. It's not horribly white, black, or brown, which means we're getting good combustion. Put this back in. Now, one thing you might come across when you're inspecting your plugs is this brown hazing at the base of the plug. This is called a corona ring, and what it is that's right where the coil leaves the plug exposed. And I've gone ahead and cleaned a portion of it just to show you that it's a combination of the heat and the electrostatic of the plug attracting debris there, and it just sticks right into that corner. So don't go and replace the plug just for that. If you do have any cracking along the porcelain, that's a good reason to replace the plug. Now, it is recommended that you torque your spark plugs. Will the torque be perfect with an extension on here? Probably not, but it's going to be closer than if I was elbowing it. The last step before we roll it outside is to torque the wheels down. 177 Newton meters or 131 foot-pounds of torque. An important step because you want those to stay on when you're driving. To reset our oil indicator, scroll over to all of your settings, down to maintenance, hit enter, oil and filter, reset. Now we're good there. Now this might seem fairly obvious, but if your engine cover was difficult to get off, try adding a little bit of silicone grease to these rubber bushings. I guarantee you the next time, it'll be much easier to get on and off. I had to do that because the first time I went to pull it off, the thing was flexing and pulling all over the place. Did not want to come off. That's pretty normal. They get pretty warmed up and stuck. So a little silicone, you'll be on your way. There it is. You can see it's just this little guy here and here. Get that filter out. Oof, a little dust. Yep, time to change it. Squeeze it past all the stuff. Put your date on there so you know when you did it. And your mileage if you want. And snap into place. Installation is the same as removal. There were 3 screws here, T20, and then there were 2 on the bottom, 1 on each corner. So we'll pop it back up there, get everybody lined up. Get our clips lined up, snap, snap. And then we'll put our screws in. So there is another way to get that glove box out, and it requires smaller, more dexterous hands than what I have. Removing those 5 screws makes it a lot easier to just pop the whole thing out. If you want to take yours out, there are a bunch of other videos on the web there that show you how to remove the little tabs at the bottom, and then you pull the drawstring. There's one tab on the far outside corner that's very difficult to get to, and conversely is difficult to put back in. So pulling the whole thing out like that in one unit was a lot easier to do. I hope you got a ton out of this video. Like, subscribe, comment. We need to go reset the tire pressure monitors, and we'll be all done. I'll get to deliver the car back to Mom's house, and she will be good to go for a little while. I'll have to take a look at that oil leak to see if it gets worse. I cleaned all the oil off of there so that when I check it the next time, I can see where it's coming from rather than it blown all over with dirt on it. I hope you got something out of this video again. I really appreciate you watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.